Don't forget to hit it. Sit still. All right. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I would ask the board if we could approve tonight's agenda with one addition. We have a number 15, which would be to add comment regarding the recent court case, which is Reedman Associates versus the town of Mendon. Make that a number 15. Make public comment a number 16 and adjournment a number 17. So moved. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to public comment. Anybody? Okay. Anybody online, Dean? Okay. Communications. Bonnie, do you have anything?
No, we're in pretty quiet time right now.
Sheldon?
My only communication is now an agenda item, so
Great.
you'll hear from me then.
Karen? Cindy?
Just a couple of things. Citizens Advisory Committee last met on April 27th, and we made quite a bit of headway in that meeting. And we'll meet again tomorrow night, May 11th, to discuss best locations, concepts, ideas, and flags. And I think we're moving along faster than we thought we would.
Excellent.
And then just with the library, the garden club has given the library flowers to be planted. Hvac made a donation to help out of town Mendon Town. First, we should get library cards so they could use the Mendon Library, like people from Lima, people from Rush. And the library donated a number of books to industry, books that they were getting rid of. And Bethlehem is coming out to do their spring maintenance.
Yeah, that, do you know who told you that? Because we're not contracting with Bethlehem anymore.
Okay. Yes, I believe it was Katrina.
Okay, I'll call her. I'll call her tomorrow.
And she did say they were having some difficulties, John Hager, with the charging stations. There were some issues, but I think she said they had gotten those all taken care of at that point.
Well, I have all the contacts, so.
Okay.
Yeah, they had contacted me, the one lady who works at the library who has a electric car. She contacted me. I went up there. I tried it. I couldn't get anywhere either with it. And then I called and they sent out a technician, but it took a few days.
Okay.
And then I got a subsequent email from somebody at the library and I went down there and tested it out with my wife's car and it was working fine.
Okay.
That's kind of, as far as I know.
She said they had some issues and they thought it was all taken care of.
When I was up there today, there was a car plugged into it.
Okay.
So I think they're good. But yes, I'll call Katrina regarding the HVAC. I'm sorry, I lost you on that one part. You said that somebody donated library cards or something?
The Hvac gave a donation to the library to help out of town Mendon residents to get library cards.
But aren't library cards free?
Well, that's what I thought, but that's what they said.
Okay.
I think if they're at a,
If they're out of
they
town,
gotta
they
pay
have
a
to pay.
fee.
Oh, they have to pay if they're out of town?
Well, and Lima would be out of county also.
Right.
Maybe it's out of county.
Yeah, because you can use, it's a Monroe County library system.
Right.
It's part of the out of
She
county.
said out of town. I specifically said, did you say out of town? And she said yes, so that's what I wrote down.
Because I know Lima has a library,
So,
but I don't know if West Bloomfield does. Oh, well. Okay. Where are we here? Tom?
Yeah, again, with the Memorial Committee, we kind of in our first meeting when we laid out the meetings, we decided we'd meet every other week for, I think, the first 3 months.
Mhm.
And then every month, if we needed to add, we could, although that's tough to do. But I think as Cindy said, I think we're on.
we only have one meeting in June, correct?
Yes. Environmental Conservation Board, they've had more sites to look at in the past 2 meetings than they have in the last 2 years. They've been really busy. They've been staying till like 9:15, 9:30 for their meetings. So, and it's good. I mean, it's all good. From what I understand, they're getting more. There might have been a miscommunication, and they weren't being given some cases that might have required their input. So, so that's a good thing. Planning board as well. We had a nice long meeting the other night. We had a hearing. There was no one there, but Hillary's 3 concerts this summer was approved. So I assume it went through the zoning board and met all the requirements there. So the first one will be June 12th. Hours of operation are 11 o'clock in the morning till I think 11 o'clock at night. That's not to say the bands will play till then, but that's what they have in the contract.
So I didn't zoom in, I YouTubed in, right? YouTubed into that
Okay.
meeting. I didn't stay for the entire thing, but it sounded to me like they were, and maybe this was before they made their determination. Sounded like they were gonna let her do the first one, and then they were gonna see how things went before they approved the next one.
Yeah, I misspoke. They're basically, what they would do is they would approve, they've approved the first one. She has the special use permit for that one.
Gotcha.
And they will revisit it just in case if there's traffic issues or whatever, it can be addressed.
Sure.
And then probably the next one would cover the following 2. But
Gotcha.
they decided this 2-step process.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but what they're anticipating is 3 of them, but technically, yeah, only 1 has been approved.
Where will that be, Tom?
I'm back in 1964.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, she's talked about, I mean, there was a lot of notices and letters from the businesses. Needless to say, they're happy to have people walking around Hamlet. So, yeah, Hillary is great to work with.
Yes,
She really
she
is. She's really buttoned down, and when they say you need these 12 items, she comes back with those 12 items, so. That's it.
John?
Yeah, just one item. As you know, I've been on the committee for a fire department replacement in the village, sort of representing folks that are in the fire district but not in the village. And it has picked up a serious amount of momentum in the past few weeks. And in fact, architectural firms were interviewed all day today, actually. And probably you'll see in the Sentinel this week a launch of a replacement program for that village fire department. I'll kind of leave it at that.
Did they ever put together like, okay, you know, like an architect or an engineer will tell you that it's X amount of dollars per square feet, and they're thinking that they need X square feet for a building like that?
That's the discovery that's going on right now. They're not, because obviously your question is, what's the number?
Yeah,
right?
what's the
If you
number?
want to do the mathematics, and I understand, and you know, and the discovery we did was we toured from the Taj Mahal of Bushnell's Basin, which was the most amazing fire department I had ever been in. That was like a playground. To a more modest Fairport Fire Department was more modest, and of course we toured Mendon and really learned a lot. So it was an interesting process, a lot learned. But David Hood does a great job, and trying to think of the chief. I can't think of his name, but both of them have handled this extremely professionally. I couldn't have been more impressed with how they went about things. Now they were kind of preconceived that they were going to get a new fire department, but they were pretty possessed that they wanted it in the village, because certainly you could go out Monroe Street, you could have gone out by the CBs, and you could have put it, but they felt that having the fire department in the Four Corners area was really of value for the community. And that's where they're leaning, and that's where they're heading, and critics will be no more in about a year and a half. So it'll be a dual entry, and that's what will be in the paper this week. It's really the worst kept secret in town that they'll be able to do a drive-through or out. I don't know which way they'll format architecturally, but they'll be able to go in and out, so you're not backing trucks up anymore by having the dual entry. So I think it's good. Critics were ready to get that big check they're gonna get, so all good.
I'll tell you one thing that bothers me with that location is when I was probably preschool, there was an Oldsmobile dealership where Critics is. And the gentleman who ran it, I remember his name was Ted Capet, and he expanded my vocabulary quite a bit. When I was down there with my dad. And when I noticed when I'm in the parking lot at Critics, it goes along nice and flat, and all of a sudden, there's a depression.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about what exactly is underneath all that.
And it will have to be dug up because there will be all sorts of leveling that will have to occur.
Because, when the car dealership back in the 50s
Yeah.
and early 60s, you can only imagine what was disposed of and how it was disposed of. So that's interesting. Ted always had a little stub of a cigar working.
That's all.
So, thank you. I had a couple of things. First of all, we did receive some information from the zoning board about cupolas. And the fact that they've had several zoning requests based on height, I believe, right, Danny?
Yep.
And so I've asked Corey to take a look at it as well as a couple other things in the code. I certainly encourage the board to take a look at our code. It's available online. And the issue is that I think it's 35 feet is our max in the code. And some of these people are putting cupolas on top, which is beyond the 35 feet. And so I think the zoning board is asking us if we would like to consider changing our code just to cut down on the number of applications before the zoning board of appeals for that particular item. Also, you'll see in the vouchers today that we're releasing some money based on the Whispering Meadows subdivision, fairly large amount of money that we've been have had at hand. This is the first time we've asked for that to be released. Gascon, the winery on 64, they went before Comida, and I talked to Jim Legret, and we did send in a letter to Comida, and it was presented at their public hearing, as well as the owner of the Gascon winery also replied to what my concerns were and Jim's concern, Jim Legret, is that basically we're happy to have a business. We wish them well. We want them to succeed. We also can't just hand over free taxes, so to speak, where they don't pay any taxes hardly at all. They've already got oodles of tax relief there, and they're asking for basically everything. So I haven't heard the results, but in talking to several other supervisors, there's more and more towns pushing back against some of these tax breaks that businesses are asking for, because in my mind, I mean, I'm all for some expansion and that type of thing, but in my mind, some of these folks are just asking for a free ride for about 10 years. And if their business plan doesn't support paying their taxes, they might have the wrong business plan. Honey Falls Fire Department did a drill at Town Hall a couple of Mondays ago. I was present and walked them through the building. They did a great job there. We had an issue with the fire alarm and the thermostat at the library. Both of those things have been repaired. Memorial Day is on. There'll be the Memorial Day parade in the hamlet, as well as the one here in the village that we participate in. As far as I know, the band, the scouts, the fire department, everybody is going to participate. I'm going to meet up there with the Men's Brothers to look at possibly setting up in a little different spot in Mendon because of the trees and everything. We're kind of crowded into that little corner. So I'm going to take a look with them at maybe down closer to the main driveway where you pull in, kind of that open area, setting up something in that vicinity so that people can spread out a little bit.
9:30 and 11.
If memory serves me, that's right, but don't go on. If you say 9:30 and 11, I think that's it.
So
That's what it was before.
it's 9:30 in Mendon?
Yep,
And 11 in Honeywood.
yeah, and in
I
Mendon,
haven't been through one of these
yeah,
before. so-
no, I'm glad you said that, because the one in Mendon, we meet, at, the old Grange.
Okay.
We meet there, like I usually park over by the ball fields, and then, that's at 9:30, and then we go to the Four Corners up the hill and into the cemetery, and then, in Honeyett Falls, we meet at East Street where the Methodist Church, Church Street and East Street, that intersection by the Methodist Church, and we come all the way up to this cemetery. So, and then there's a small, ceremony at the Quaker Cemetery on Quaker Meeting House Road, almost up to 251. I think they go there in between the two. And then prior to that, they go to West Bloomfield, which obviously isn't in the town of Mendon. They do start at West Bloomfield. There's one there, which I've been to once, which is great. It's a very nice, small ceremony. They read every veteran that's buried in that cemetery going back to like the Revolutionary War. Kind of interesting.
But we don't go to the Quaker meeting.
No, generally we don't. The Legion heirs stop and they do a quick, 10-minute ceremony there. I mean, you're certainly welcome to, but we don't
Okay,
normally do that.
thank you.
Let's see, we publicized the COVID shots in Wheatland. I got a call from the supervisor there, Linda Dobson, who's also a nurse, so she arranged to get the county out there, and so we publicized that up pretty good around town, trying to get people to drive over to Wheatland for the COVID shot. I haven't talked to her since they had it, so I don't know. Rick Mill and I had a Zoom call with the superintendent of Honeyett Falls Lima Schools regarding the new cannabis legislation coming down from the state. Nothing specific, but it's something that I think we all need to think about. I think we all need to talk to our neighboring communities, because basically, if everyone is opted in, and you have till December 31st to opt out, if that's your choice. If you don't do anything by December 31st, you're in. And depending on who you talk to, if you want to opt out after that, there seems to be some confusion about if that's even possible. But if, for instance, I'm just saying for argument's sake, we opted out and Honeyett Falls opted in and Lima opted in and Pittsford opted in, I should say opted in, everybody is in, Roche, all our neighboring communities, we're gonna have the same set of problems with none of the sales tax revenue. So that seems to be everyone's concern, is that if we're gonna have the problem, then maybe we should be in on the revenue. But if everybody's gonna opt out, then it's kind of puts everybody at a level playing field. So that's an ongoing discussion. Certainly give it some thought. I think I forwarded some information to all of you. I know that's a very big concern with law enforcement on how to test for cannabis use and how it will affect our employees and CDLs and stuff. At this point, we don't even know how that's going to affect anyone.
We're federal, so it doesn't affect us right yet. We're
Gotcha.
still gotta follow no roads.
We still got to follow the federal rules.
Yeah, because we're federal.
Gotcha. I don't know if I reported on this, but we, from the Citizens Advisory Committee, we did receive a resignation from Paul Haney. Summer Rec is, talked to Kim Roberts, Summer Rec, their registration's lagging a bit. I think a lot of that is COVID and people just aren't thinking about summer yet. But certainly talk that up if you can, if you have anybody who.
Are we requiring people to be vaccinated that work at that?
They technically work for the school.
Well, but now Cuomo announced today that for camps and that it was a requirement.
Oh, well, I didn't hear that one, but the fire hose on Albany is just on all the time, so I don't pick up on everything, but that would be.
So the school guidelines are in place?
Yeah, because they're technically employees of the school. We
Oh, they
contract
are,
with the
okay.
school to run the program. So if that's what the state's requiring, then I think, I'm sure that's what the school would.
I think the reference today from Albany was SUNY.
No, but he was talking about summer camps
Oh,
too.
so all right.
He was talking about summer day camps and sleepover camps.
Not that the participants would have to be vaccinated,
Well,
but the
the
council.
employees all had to be
Gotcha.
vaccinated, and he was talking about perhaps,
I would
Gotcha.
I would think so.
Let's see. Tentative assessment roll is on the website. Grievance day is the fourth Tuesday in May, which is the 25th. Kelly and I are doing a webinar with Finance School, May 19th and 20th. And I sent everybody this email today that I got from Avon. They're looking for somebody to represent the town. They're having a ceremony regarding the helicopter participants that were killed in a helicopter crash. And I'm going to be out of town that day. It's a Saturday of Memorial Day. They asked if we had a representative, so I don't know if anybody's free and available. You can speak, but I'm sure you don't have to speak if you'd like to go and just represent the town. So if anybody's interested, get back to me as soon as you can, because she seemed very anxious to find out if someone could attend from the town.
I'm gonna be out of town Saturday and Sunday this weekend, so,
I'll be back then more Day.
yeah.
Okay, that Saturday, it brings her Monday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that covers it. Thank you. Move on to supervisor's monthly report. Excuse me.
Motion to acknowledge receipt of supervisor's monthly report for April 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? You can see our revenue is pretty good, except for DA, which is typical because basically Andy hasn't done any work for county at this point, and the expenses are 40%, so that we're fine. I would only add that, and that's why you see a change in fund balance. You see that negative under the DA, so don't let that alarm you. That's typical for this time of year. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is town clerk's monthly report.
Motion to accept or acknowledge receipt of town clerk's monthly report for April 2021, showing receipts and disbursements in the amount of $10,537.43.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have minutes. We can do these all at once or separately, March 8th, April 12th, and April 26th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Tell Jim we're proud of him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got caught up. Let's see. Next, we have budget transfers and adjustments.
I'll make a motion to approve the following budget adjustments as listed in our agenda item here.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the resolution. There's one more at the bottom, is subject to permissive referendum, which is money from equipment reserves to equipment. This is for a sweeper.
Figured this was handy.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
So
Second.
Any discussion? Once again, this is a sweeper. We've got it. This is to pay for it, and it is subject to permissive referendum, so we're not going to be able to pay for it tonight, but we will be able to pay for it next month. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have vouchers.
I make a motion to approve all claims on vouchers number 21-275 to 21-350 on general abstract 21-05 in the amount of $120,399.97.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to make note that there were two pretty big ticket items. One was almost $22,000 for a refund of maintenance bond. And the other one was for the lifts for the highway department. That was almost $32,000.
And that's the maintenance plan that I talked about earlier.
Right.
And the lifts were part of our capital improvement plan. That when they lift up those huge highway vehicles and the guys are underneath working on them, money well spent.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to HVAC. Oh, I am sorry.
I'd like to acknowledge library vouchers number 21-049 to 21-060 on library abstract 21-05 in the amount of $2,507.52 were presented to the town board for payment.
Thank you. Next is HVAC 2021 maintenance.
So moved.
Second.
So we sent out a request for proposal for spring service and fall service in 2021 in all the buildings, all the furnaces. We received 3 replies. Fall side heating and air conditioning was the lowest one at $38.73. And the reason it's being paid from several accounts is because, there's one account for this building, there's another account for town hall, another one for the library, another one for the highway, so that's why the various accounts that all add up to that amount of money.
So this is in lieu of the Bedlam that.
Yes, Bedlam contacted us right around the first of the year and said they were not able to fulfill our contract because they do not do prevailing wage. At that point, I talked to Sheldon and we had a discussion and we decided that we would look elsewhere because we had to, they wouldn't do it anymore. So if they had paid their employees prevailing wage, they could have continued to do the work, but they do not, will not.
Sheldon, can you give us a 5,000 foot level of prevailing wage?
So it's legal code for union scale. So under the labor law, anytime that we do anything, we have to pay prevailing wage. And the contractor has to pay their employees prevailing wage. However, it does not apply to a one-man shop, which is what the one here is. It's just one person. So he doesn't have to pay himself prevailing wage.
So it's basically union wages for municipalities.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Which results in probably a 30 to 35% increase in the cost of anything we do. And the taxpayers pick up the tab. Did we vote on?
No.
I thought this is for the HVAC.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom and Cindy.
Move
We
it.
didn't do the total vote,
That's
no.
it.
Yeah, we just had the motions.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we've got bid documents. This is splash park related. So I'll give you a little bit of or John, why don't you give us a little bit of a lowdown on this? Is that all right before it's moved, Sheldon? Can you give a little lowdown or try there?
I'd rather you move it first.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to for approval for Lavella Engineers to prepare bid documents related to the town installing a splash park on Summer Road not to exceed $5,000 from account A 7110.4.
I'll second that.
Sure.
You kind of led the charge, so.
I have led the charge. I have And it wasn't just a splash park, it was my issue when we reviewed capital budgeting every year, and it was, we're putting a new roof on, we're building a salt barn. And I always felt that it's all stuff that was totally needed, but what has it done for Mendon residents, whether it be recreationally or whatever? And I had met a fellow at a association town meeting in New York a couple of years back. He sold recreational equipment, but he had these splash pad. And it came out of a campaign stop that John and I made a couple of years back, and the lady said, hey, you know, what's going on with recreation here? And started thinking about that, and we've been kind of thinking about it, talking about it for a couple of years now, and it's starting to actually come to fruition. We have toured the Summer Road facility. It offers a number of already in place advantages, including parking, men's and ladies' room, electricity, and water, which are all the clear needed things that are already in place. We have a softball field that barely gets used, and I mean, it does get used for youth softball, but not very much. And there's a thought that we can move it to a nearby soccer field facility, so there will be no loss of capability. But its platform is perfect for this, what will be called the splash park. And it's about a 3,000 square foot flat. I mean, everyone knows what it is. It's like when you go to Seabreeze, where the water's spraying on the kids, there's no depth of water. It's all draining, so nobody can drown. So we have zero liability, which is kind of important. But it would be a wonderful place for Mendon residents to entertain their 1 to 10-year-olds. So we're in the midst of consideration. We met with engineering last week, and now we're thinking about the next step, which would be a bid, involved with a bid request. So it's kind of where we're at, right?
Right. So what we're looking for, because that used to be a landfill where a lot of are surrounding the current highway department. So we need to find out that if the DEC will allow this type of activity there, because obviously there's a lot of water runoff. There's a certain amount of digging that has to be done, very shallow digging, but still there's digging. So we need to find out those kinds of things before we get too far here. And I've had preliminary discussions with the DEC, but I really feel like we need somebody like LaBella, somebody who knows this stuff to really dig, pardon the expression, but dig down into the details of this and see, with the environment underground there as to what the effects of something like this would be, and if it's allowed. We certainly don't want to have anything that's dangerous or not appropriate for that use, but we certainly, I think this is something we need to do before we get too far along in this.
Are there groups that use that softball field though, that I thought we got people who paid for
Soccer field.
all the soccer field?
We have softball.
That's.
I thought
But it's not to the magnitude.
No, but she asked them that we do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there are people who use that song.
So we might want to communicate that we're looking at options for them.
Sure.
So that
But
we don't,
we're not gonna make it disappear, we're just gonna move it.
No, I
a quarter
understand.
mile down the road.
It's just gonna be.
but I think to avoid
Sure.
any controversy.
Which I think it makes total sense and we'll do, but we're not at.
We're not at that step, I get it.
Right, but no, it's a good point.
Yeah, and even if things went along super smooth, anything that would be done this year would be done long after anything is
Sure.
processed. But I think this will take us in a direction where, and there's also a possibility that this may somehow dovetail into the an appropriate response for the Citizen Advisory Committee regarding a memorial for the fallen soldiers. So it may or may not, but that's something that we can continue to look at. But I think it's good to kind of get this ball moving as far as the engineer goes.
And John, I thank you for
Done a lot of work.
researching that. That is, I think that's exciting for our
Yeah,
community.
I grew up with a splash park across the street from my house. I
Yeah,
love it.
well, and I agree with you that we do, if we're gonna be doing capital improvements, we want it to be something
Yeah.
unique. And that's
I
kind of,
mean, we need roofs on our buildings and all of that, but,
absolutely.
but to add some value to the general town is, for, the town folks is a good thing.
It's very positive.
And I think people that don't have kids, that people that might not even use it, if you told them about it, they go, hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we're gonna
I
put
plan to use
We're
it.
gonna put picnic tables. Yeah, but I bet you bring your.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
but
we're
I'm
gonna
putting
put,
it without.
picnic tables around it. Cindy, I can just a visual.
Okay. I'm all for a good time, and that sounds like fun.
Oh, right.
Didn't you say
So-
10-year-olds?
I went out to the spray park in the town of Sweden, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, Rockport is a village within the town of Sweden. And, I met with the supervisor and met with one of their people from their DPW, and their supervisor told me that's like the best thing they've ever done. They, it's basically 10 and under that really seems to enjoy this. He said older kids will come, but they'll just like run through it on a hot day to
Yeah.
cool off. He goes, they don't really hang around. And they've had, which I consider that somewhat similar to our community. I mean, obviously they have a big college there, but I mean, other than that, it's relatively small town there. And he said vandalism has been, non-existent. The kids have enjoyed it. It's really been a big hit. And I'll be honest with you, when John first started talking about it, I thought, he fell on his head. But I really come full
Yes.
circle on this thing. The more I learned about it, the more I liked it.
Well, the pictures you shared were very neat too. I thought.
Yeah, it was,
I
it
think
was,
it's a great idea.
it's, I think it's got the possibility of really being something special that we can all be proud of.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to American Flag Collection Box. And Ben's here. So Ben, I don't know if you want to just give us an overview of where you are right now?
So I'm Ben Gould, I'm a Troop 10 in Hunter Falls, Boy Scouts, and I've been working on the Eagle Scout project. I spoke through the public comment section in March, and I talked about how I want to do a flag collection box for the North American flags. I'd like to place it on this property here in Hunter Falls, on the community center property. I gained American Legion Post 664 to be my beneficiary and collect these flags and support my project, and I'd like to request to build on this property. I gave out some information about it. I'm not sure if it's been looked over, but everything, all my plans are the same right now. The only difference is, based on feedback on the location, we believe that putting it in the front of the building, if you're looking at the building to the front left, would be a more ideal location than to the back. So,
And then would this be pretty close to the driveway over here?
um,
As far as your location? I mean, it's something that somebody can easily, in inclement weather, could get out and put flags in there. I'm just thinking like if it's out in the middle of the yard and with snow and things like that.
You said to the left,
yeah, we were thinking in the grass section, to the front of the building, where there's the walkway.
But you'd have the walkway to get to it.
Yeah, it would be right off the walkway.
Yeah,
Right off the walk.
Extension on the walkway, possibly. Yes.
And then with your plans, I should have reviewed them again, but will there be any surfaces that are going to be painted or stained?
I don't believe so. I would like to do a concrete slab with the building cover and then a metal collection box. The only paint would be on the metal box.
Gotcha. I'm just thinking from a long-term issue, because once it's here, the town's responsible for it, and it'd be a shingled roof on it, I think.
Metal roof.
Metal roof, that's right, metal roof, good.
I think it would be beneficial, when it gets put out there, to maybe write an article in the Sentinel, maybe something we can put on our website about proper flag disposal, and just say this is a resource that the town has, just so we get people to use it.
Absolutely. That was part of my plan. I wanted to make sure everyone knows about it. And just let me-
you've done a beautiful job with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kudos to you.
And so the Legionnaires would be responsible for removing the flags from the container, disposing of them properly as time goes on.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking that someday you're gonna be in college. Hopefully you after college, you become a full-time resident, but I'm not gonna hold you to that.
Wait, we could vote on that, right?
Yeah. So, no, I think it's nice, it'll be a nice addition. I know personally, I've driven to the Lima Legion, which is in West Bloomfield, which always throws people. I've taken my flags there because they have a box there for disposal.
Yeah.
So, it's, great.
Yeah, wonderful. So do we need to vote on it?
Yes, it's their, do we move it? I think I'll write down, I want to write down this.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is a shred recycling event. So when, well, I'll wait for the motion.
So moved.
Oh, wait a minute, who?
So moved.
Just three of you. Okay, Jen,
Second.
okay.
So this is something that I know Karen and Cindy have been talking about, and I've kind of gotten into the mix of this a little bit as well. And what we're thinking of is a shred event, because I know Canandaigua National Bank had one down here, and they had some issues with the truck that was here, and they had to shut it down early. It would, I also talked to the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, and they would provide a deputy with a collection box for prescription drugs. And the third item would be electronics recycling, which would be done, what was the name of that company?
E-waste.
E-waste. So done a little bit of research, and the issue, the date, the biggest thing with the date is the shredding people, because they only do it on Saturdays. They were pretty well booked up, but they do have the 12th of June available. And obviously that's the day of the event at Hillary's at Menace 64, but this would be from 9 to 12 in the morning. I don't think it would be a conflict, so to speak.
Where are you planning on doing it?
Highway Park.
Oh, I would.
That way, if it's raining or something like that, I talked to Andy, they could use that big barn on the right when you first pull in, and you could drive right through. And the folks from the electronics recycling are gonna provide us with something called a Gaylord box, which I think I know what that is. And they're not gonna be there. We just pile everything in there. I don't know if we have to sort it, but we pile
No,
everything in
they
there.
sort of,
And then they come and get it. The gentleman from the deputy from the police department, he will take back the drugs and dispose of them properly. At the end of the day, we don't have to handle those. And the shredding guy, the shred thing is right on the truck. So they throw it in there, it shreds it, and then stays right in the truck. So it's minimal work on our part. I mean, direct to traffic, answering questions, things like that is probably the biggest part of what we will need to do. And I think everybody here, Andy, Michelle, some other folks as well probably will participate in, and we'll get the word out and get it advertised and things like that.
we'll probably need signs though, won't we? For each of the sections? For
Once you get in,
shredding, for,
I guess so. I don't know.
yeah,
Once we get down to that, I think we probably will need some signs, but we are not, and we're gonna have signs posted or advertisement posted in the town, I believe. Did we talked about that? Put it up on our website.
Yeah, put it on our Facebook page, on our website,
Let
we
people
can
know
put
what
something
they
in the
can and can't
Sentinel, right, because the monitors are the issue, because they charge for those, so we're just gonna say that we're not gonna accept those, because we run into all kinds of problems with people collecting cash. When I talked to Lima, they're going through they're doing something similar, and they're requiring their residents to come into town hall to buy like a ticket. And then what are they buying a ticket for? Because there's several different kinds of monitors. So we're just gonna say no.
so we're not
monitors.
gonna do that?
Yeah, we do electronics, but not monitors. Because the monitors part of it is very,
Okay,
I don't know the difference between all those monitors personally. I just don't. But,
the village also has expressed that they'd be willing to share the costs with us if we wanted to include them as well.
Sure. Well, anybody who's in the village is in the town, so they can
No, I
come.
mean, the village, the elected village officials.
Gotcha.
Such
Gotcha.
a.
The only expense we're really gonna have is this one, which
Oh,
is
okay.
the, you know, a sign or two maybe, if we had it professionally made is a possibility. But, the only thing we're really gonna, have as far as expenses for the shredding people.
Okay,
Everything else, as I understand it, well, there won't be an expense related to it, which I think is pretty reasonable. And, I think I know the village already collects our electronics
yes, they do.
down at the sewer plant, so I've taken things down there on occasion, so they have that there, so I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't have it. My bad, that was one of the last things I added, and so I didn't put the adopted defeated thing in the agenda. My apologies. So,
Does it need to be moved and voted on?
we did.
Oh, we did.
We didn't vote.
We didn't vote though.
Yes, we did vote. So right now, I just want to make sure that I get confirmation. That's why I didn't put a date here. I want to make sure I get confirmation from the sheriff's department. But they basically told me they thought they could do just about any time. The shred people can do June 12th. So I didn't want to put that in the resolution, but if we can at least pass a resolution to pay for the shredding, that'd be great. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to our new number 15, which is the court case, Reedman Associates versus the town of Mendon.
So I sent everybody a copy of the decision. I think the town was pretty much vindicated. The court below was in error in awarding attorney's fees, was in error in telling us that we had to approve the sewer agreement when the only involvement was that the supervisor and I were on a committee that talked about a possible sewer agreement. But you can't have a sewer agreement until the majority of the town board passes it. And if you recall, procedurally, we're getting bogged down with all of the procedure with the planning board. And I just thought if we put the sewer agreement as a standalone, up or down vote, because without the sewer agreement, they couldn't do the project and the whole thing would become moot. So we did vote down the sewer agreement. The court below said that that was wrong, and the appellate division said no, that was exactly what a town board is supposed to do. So the attorney's fees are out. The turning down, or the voting down the new sewer agreement is valid, which I think certainly kills the project as it currently stands. I mean, now the town board can vote on the plan, but it's almost like that would be moot. But the other thing is that the town is now free to repeal the PUD ordinance. I think that we should repeal it. I'm not saying not have PUDs in the town. I'm saying that this thing is poorly written. And this is what got us into a mess, was it had this whole convoluted procedure. And I think that in a future meeting, I think the town board should repeal it. Maybe have a committee or look into whether you want to have PUDs or not. But this PUD ordinance as written is just a mess, frankly. It's a legal term. It's a
When
mess.
we recoded, didn't we remove PUD?
Yes, but the problem was that wasn't properly advertised. So now that was invalid. So now we can go ahead and do it again.
Right now, they have the ability to put a shovel in the ground for a 54 unit
Correct,
facility on
Correct.
8 to 7 acres. So
correct.
it's almost like we're back where we were.
We are,
Yeah, so I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, we're back to 2005.
correct.
Or 2018 to a certain extent. I mean, they had that approval then.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, back to where
Yes.
it stood like 2005.
Yeah.
Where they can tie into Pittsburgh sewers, they can build 54 homes
Right.
and, go before the planning board and pursue want that fits the code at this point.
And we owe zero for legal fees.
Right.
0.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I know at least Karen, this, as you can tell, we're talking about 2005, so you can imagine how many twists and turns.
Yeah,
This has happened
really.
over 16 years, but this basically was something that Ryan Holmes was interested in doing, and then he, I believe, conditionally sold it to Reedman, and then Reedman basically almost doubled the number of homes. And then there was a lot of discussion amongst the board members. We met with both Ryan and Reedman. It's been a long process. I mean, I think this was heard, in October at the appeals court?
October 22nd.
So that's just waiting for the
How do you
decision of
remember
the
that?
appeals court.
This case has been, I've been going back to 2005, I've been involved in this.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't have PUD is a planned unit development.
Mhm.
But if you look at what a definition of a planned unit development is, I don't think this, I think our code was poorly written, as Sheldon said, and I don't think this meets the requirements of a planned unit development, because it should have some commercial, it should have some recreational things. It's more like what's behind the grocery store.
Yeah, that's a flood.
That's a PUD.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a bad idea, or we couldn't use more housing for especially like patio homes and things like that. But I think that, in my opinion, this was a whole different scale than what was determined in '05. And I think there'd be whether or not there's sewers coming into the town outside the village is another big question that I think any town board, being this one or any one in the future, needs to consider carefully. I know Jen and I have a difference of opinion about that, friendly difference of opinion, but we, that's just something that I think we need to really consider going forward.
So did they get a site plan approved in 2005 or?
Yes.
So they have a site plan with 54 houses on it that?
Right, and what happened when Reading came along, he nearly doubled it.
Yeah, but the reality is they have a site plan approved in 2018 also.
Well, the town board hasn't approved it.
I understand that, but if we're talking planning board, that's approved.
Yeah.
That was sent to the town board.
But they can't do anything until the town board approves
I
it.
completely understand.
And where was this supposed to be?
You're back here, no.
Oh, it's right
Just
right-
north of the thruway on 64,
Oh, okay.
northeast.
Northeast, okay.
So there's a little section of the town of Mendon on 64, north of the thruway, before you hit the sign that says, "Welcome to Pittsburgh."
Okay.
And the natural gas
But the
footing
foot,
is on the other
but the
side.
home footprint is in the Pittsburgh School District.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I think there would have been more energy to approve it if the footprint was in the Honeycomb Hills.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Anything else, anybody else wants to comment?
The only thing I'd say, John, is that it's correct, the planning board approved it, but it was contingent upon a sewer agreement.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it had gone through.
It had gone through the planning board process, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that was a 14-month event.
Correct.
So is it a dead issue at this point? There's
Well,
no
the-
more?
Well, we'll have to see what they do.
The larger one is, yes.
Okay.
Well, like in theory, they could appeal from this court to New York's highest court, the Court of Appeals. But this was a unanimous decision in the appellate division. So they would have to get leave to appeal from New York's Court of Appeals, which would be very rare unless they could point out some big conflict of law between this decision and another appellate division, like the third or the fourth. But this is.
Yeah, but Sheldon, they could put a new plan together and bring it to the planning board for a subdivision.
Yeah.
With approval by the town board to see if they could supply a description that would meet our decision making, right? I mean, if this could go 3-2, 4-1, whatever, either way, right?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm saying that they could almost come back through the process, right?
Sure they could.
With a higher level of homes and, you know, have no court involved, just see if it would fly.
Well, then there, but it couldn't be any more homes than the 54, because the sewer agreement's already been voted down.
The sewer agreement is part of the.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
I
tied to
understand
the
that,
number of homes.
but couldn't they try it again?
Well, sure they could, anybody could try.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I mean, yeah, I understand it's right where it is, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they wouldn't say, let's give it another.
But they
shot.
also could start, I mean, not tomorrow, but I mean, they also, there's really nothing holding them up from putting in 54 homes and running the sewer from Pittsburgh right now.
Correct.
Obviously, they'd have to go to planning board meetings and some things like that, but I mean, there's really nothing holding them back.
Well, the world has changed from even just 3 years ago. Cost of construction, need for housing has greatly increased. I mean, bidding wars for houses, I mean, who knows, maybe 54 all of a sudden becomes more appealing.
Could be.
Anyway,
Thank you for the explanation.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm amazed that you did it. You could explain it that quick. It's been a long, drawn out process.
2005.
I did not, I'm not a lawyer, I know it's gonna shock you. But I watched a good portion of the actual proceedings, and they did not sound favorable at all to agreement. And that was just my very, very uneducated take from it, so.
Yeah, I watched as well, and I would say, you know, at least half of what they said, I didn't understand. what they were talking about.
That was what's said.
Yeah. So you think G applies? Do you think J applies? What are they referring to? The old code, the new code, some other code? Back to public comment. Anybody need any?
On the vaccines for recreation, whatever, we had a comment from Michelle. Cuomo changed and said it's only mandatory if the vaccine gets full approval for SUNY colleges.
Oh, okay. All right. Anybody else? Bob?
Yeah, hi, Bob Gould, 108 Cheese Factory Road. First of all, thank you very much for your endorsement of my son's project. Public comment. I have a question first regarding the legalization of marijuana in New York State. What were you referring to specifically that the towns have till December 31st to opt out? Is it possession? Is it a retail outlet? We talked about tax revenue. What specifically is on the table?
Retail.
Retail.
That's the only thing that we would, I mean,
there's
there's
a dispensary opens up.
a dispensary.
So the towns have the authority to vote or to determine whether or not they will allow retail dispensaries in their towns.
Correct.
And question, and this might be for Judge Boyce, when is it appropriate for the town board to put things to a public vote?
We can't.
Or does the town board have the authority to vote on that right now without going to a public vote?
I can tell you that in the state legislation, it says you cannot go to a public vote for that. It's solely the discretion of the town board.
I would encourage the town board, Mr. Moffett, Mr. Supervisor, I would ask for you and your staff to have some ongoing dialogue with our 8 or 9 adjoining towns. I would implore this town board to absolutely shoot down any proposals and outlaw, if we have that jurisdiction, outlaw the sale of marijuana in the town of Mendon. And I think a unified front from the, Lima, Rush, Pittsburgh, Victor, West Bloomfield, all our neighboring towns. Yes, there's going to be revenue. I think that's one of the biggest justifications that Governor Cuomo wanted to push this through. In my opinion, some financial mismanagement in New York State and a lot of discrepancy between how they spend money downstate and how they spend money upstate. It's not worth it. This town has been, I remember talking to you, Mr. Supervisor, regarding the town barns. I've got a good memory. I think it was $350,000 to pay for the town barn, and our town paid for it with cash. So financial and fiscal conservative methods have been successful in the past, and I think absolutely this town should not allow it. I implore the village of Honeymoon Falls to to hear from the town of Mendon. I'll be candid, one of the reasons my family lives on Cheese Factory Road, we decided not to live in the village of Humere Falls. It's a beautiful village. I love walking through here at night. It's fun to be here during scout meetings. But candidly, we're at the Scout House. We see young kids hanging around the park, and there's drug use, and there's alcohol use and tobacco use. There's an element of unsupervised kids and young people in that village, and candidly, that's one of the defining factors. We chose not to live in the village. That can be dangerous. So I implore the town to turn that down, not wait till December 31st. Be the leaders and deny it now, and reach out to our fellow affiliated townships and encourage them to do the same, and we can send a message. What goes on in the city of Rochester, what goes on in Buffalo, what goes on in Brooklyn, can go on in Brooklyn. But this is the town of Mendon, and I implore all of you to deny those applications and encourage our fellow affiliated towns to do the same. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I would just wanted to add on to that is that this and anything we do in no way affects the ability to possess or to grow. That has been determined as legal, and we are not allowed to, change that. The only thing it revolves around is a dispensary. And if the village allowed it and the town didn't, and a dispensary opened up in the village, the entire tax revenue would go to the village. If one opened in the village and we allowed it and the village allowed it, then we would get 50% of the tax revenue, unless there was a separate side agreement between the village and the town. Same thing as if the one opened in the town, the village allowed it, one we opened up there, it's shared revenue from that standpoint. So it is something that we can have public hearings on, but unfortunately, it cannot be put to a referendum to a vote of the public, which disappoints me personally. I think you as well. Anything else? Sheldon, anything on your end? No. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I have to admit, I was kind of like John when I first brought it. It was kind of like,
Thank you so much.
what's the schedule like with your project?
There's a lot of research. I'm like, what's he talking about?
Good job, good job. Clean up, Andy. I don't see anything. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Ben.
I'll be honest with you.
No,
you'll think. Thanks, Andy.
Yes.